Tonight on News 5 Live, well-known businessman Zeng Lu is lured to his death. 3 young men are missing since Friday and presumed dead at sea. And in the court, Colin Francis is arraigned for the June 8th murder of Nestor Vasquez Jr. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
Smart customers, this is your
Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Monday, November 25th. I am Marlene Cuellar. The Chinese community is trying to make sense of the murder of well-known businessman Zeng Lu. Lu, who is one of the principals of the 88 chain of stores, was executed near Old Belize on Saturday night, and as investigations take place, it is believed he was lured to his murder on Saturday night. Zeng got a telephone call while he was at the Boulevard Plaza, one of 4 stores on Central American Boulevard. The message was that his newly imported vehicle had broken down on the George Price Highway near Old Belize. Zeng drove to the area to help, but instead was ambushed and executed. 4 men drove off in his vehicle, but before that, they dumped his body on the roadside. Police recovered the vehicle soon after and detained 4 men who were fleeing from the vehicle in the area of Gungulung. News 5's Dwayne Moody has the following report.
Just before 9 o'clock on Saturday night, the blast from gunfire echoed in the distance near the Old Belize compound on the George Price Highway. Police would arrive to discover the body of Zeng Lu, known to many as the manager of the Boulevard Plaza on Central American Boulevard in Belize City. The 28-year-old was killed inside his vehicle in the area and his body dumped on the side of the road before the culprit escaped in Lu's vehicle.
Mr. Lu was at his business place on Central American Boulevard when he was called to assist a friend who apparently had broken down on the George Price Highway, and in the process he then picked up another male person who took him or who rode along with him to the area where they were met by 2 other persons, and during that process Mr. Lu was apparently shot.
News 5 has been informed that Lu received a call around 8 o'clock from an associate. That person had brought in a car from the U.S. for Lu. The deceased was told that a person who was interested in purchasing the vehicle was out test driving when the car broke down near mile 4 on the George Price Highway. Lu picked up the associate and went to find 3 persons at the scene. 1 pulled out a firearm and shot Lu at close range as he sat in the driver's side of the vehicle, which was later used by all 4 men, including the associate, as the getaway car. Police intercepted the vehicle on Holy Emmanuel Street in the Gungulung area.
Police did locate that in Belize City, the vehicle which he used to go to that area.
Was that in someone's possession? Who had that vehicle?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I am not going to reveal that, but yes, it was in someone's possession.
Are you able to say if that's one of the persons detained?
Yes, it is. Police investigation so far had led to the detention of 3 male persons whom we believe played a role in this investigation, and so far statements were recorded from them whilst the investigation is still ongoing. Those statements were submitted to the Director of Public Prosecution for her perusal and further directive.
But what is the motive behind this latest homicide against a member of the Chinese community?
Is there any sort of indication that maybe Mr. Zeng was lured to his death, or someone took the opportunity or took advantage of the opportunity that his friend was in distress to ensure that they would catch him at a location they knew he would be?
From what the investigation is showing, we do not necessarily believe that, because he did have some conversations with those persons who were at the area prior to the shooting.
Sir, so would you say that these 3 persons all orchestrated this murder or planned to set him up?
No, I would not say that. At this point in time, no, the investigation is not showing that either.
So is it a situation that Mr. Zeng was killed in a random act of violence, sir?
Could have been, because obviously, as I had mentioned before, there was some conversation between him and those persons.
We are very puzzled, and we don't know why this happened. because he's such a nice guy, and I don't think he have any personal issue with anybody.
Since the news of his killing hit social media, there has been an outpour of comments on the character of Lou by those who came in contact with him during their shopping at the 88 group of companies. Lou leaves behind his girlfriend and their unborn child.
He grew up in Orange Rock. And well, he in the city now is quite some time. And well, due to the response, what they get from the Facebook as the news goes out, and that news gets over like 1,500 comments, and our comments are positive. That could show that means that he is such a nice person, a lovely person by the neighborhood and the community. So this guy is, well, many people miss him. Our community is like deeply regret about what happened, and it's not just for us. It can be happening to anybody, and I just hope that this is the last time. And well, first of all, we thanks for the police and make a quick response towards this incident, and we have prepared two certificate to show our appreciation to the police department.
4 persons have been detained in connection with this latest homicide. Dwayne Moody for News 5.
3 fishermen who went fishing on Friday at Map Key are believed to be dead. That's the latest word from family members just before news time. It follows the discovery of their boat, the Lorraine, around midday today in some mangroves on Drown Key. The trio comprises Sheldon Gibson, Elijah Usher, and Kevin Roches. Family members confirmed that their vessel was bullet-ridden and that the Crimes Investigation Branch is testing for residue. The police, Coast Guard, and family members continue to scour the area looking for the fishermen. But the foreboding feeling is that the trio is not alive. News 5's Disani Caetano reports.
3 young men, all residents of Belize City, remain missing at sea and presumed dead. The trio of Sheldon Gibson, Elijah Usher Jr., and Kevin Roches set out to an area near Maps Key on Friday and have not been seen or heard from since. What was meant to be a day-long fishing expedition 6.5 miles off the coast has turned into a desperate search. The glimmer of hope that somehow they are still alive fades with each passing day.
On Friday morning, he left his home en route to sea to go fishing. Normally he would come home in the evenings, and for some reason on Friday he didn't return home in the night. My mother usually call him, to confirm with him whether if he was going to bring something to eat or tell him if she has stuff at home for him to eat. But when she called him that Friday, she didn't get any answer. His phone just rang and rang.
And since then, Sheldon's phone goes straight to voicemail. Something ominous happened the following morning, a portent that tragedy had befallen them at sea.
This Saturday morning, an individual came to our house to inform us that his son went fishing with my brother in the Map Key area. And for some reason, he was saying that he felt as if though his son was dead or if his son was missing, no? So we asked him, it was just overnight, how comes he feel that way? He said, well, he just know that his son, he feel as if though his son is dead. So we went to the station and we made reports that our brother was missing, and we asked that the police went out and looked for them. And I know for sure that, that wasn't like him to go on an overnight trip, because he normally comes back by evening.
It's been 3 days and neither Gibson's or the other families involved in the search effort have been able to locate the missing fishermen.
On Saturday, Belize City Police received a report from a relative of one Sheldon Gibson. She reported to the police that on the Friday, Sheldon Gibson, 22 years, who is her brother, along with one Elijah Usher and Kevin Roches, left Belize City in a white skiff to go fishing in the Map Key area. Family members have tried contacted them since Friday and have been unable to do so as a result of the report being received. Police and Coast Guard visited the Mapki area where searches have been going on since the report was made.
Could it be that the men were dispatched and plunged into a watery grave? The Gibson family remains optimistic. However, it is not lost on them that piracy may have played a role in their disappearance.
As a child, he grew up on the sea, but I still don't think that he had known much enough to be out there, with younger folks than him, And we spoke to him about that. We told him, Sheldon, you don't know much about the sea. And our family believed that the sea wasn't for him. We spoke to him. However, that's what he wanted, that's what he chose, and we couldn't have told him otherwise.
Mapki is a bountiful fishing site. It has also been the location of several unsolved mysteries involving the vanishing of fishermen. On Saturday, June 23rd, the bodies of Damar Martinez and Allison Jones were found floating in that area. The men had been bound together and fatally shot after reportedly heading out to camp to set lobster traps. Back in January, the lifeless and badly decomposed body of Evan Neal was retrieved from a latrine on the island. 2 others who were with him at the camp have never been located. Reporting for News 5, I am Isani Cayetano.
A child was injured by gun violence over the weekend. The 1-year-old girl was fast asleep when she was hit by a gunshot on Sunday night. She was at her grandmother's house on Antelope Extension in Belize City. The child's uncle and his girlfriend were at the gate of the yard and were also injured in the shooting. As many as 6 other persons were inside the house when a gunman opened fire, but fortunately they were spared. The shooter first took aim at Mervyn Martin, who was at the gate, and then trained the gun at the house. News 5's Hippolyta Novello reports.
3 persons, including a 1-year-old girl, were shot on Sunday night when a gunman released a barrage of bullets at this house on Antelope Street Extension. It happened around 7 o'clock that night when the child, Melanie Martin, was fast asleep with her grandmother in her bed. Her uncle, 23-year-old Mervyn Martin, and his girlfriend, 16-year-old Chantus Martinez, were also shot. They were near the entrance to the residence when the gunman crept up on them. Mervyn's father, Cecil, was near when the shooter struck.
I was sitting me and my cousin over by the other side, and I saw one young man walk come right there and gun start to shoot. I have no idea who's the young man, where he come from, or who. As far as my concern, he's just devil standing in the side to do a mischievous act.
But that mischievous act could have been fatal for a number of persons who were inside the house. Mervyn, who was shot in his back, reportedly saw the shooter approaching and bolted. Martinez, however, was not quick enough. She is currently at the KHMH in a critical condition, suffering from gunshot injuries. Baby Melanie was shot in the right elbow and is stable.
I don't know sure if my son come out or what, but it appears some things nearly like that, because then when he sight the person and he say, "I'll quit the gun," he try to run away. That's making him get shot in the back. But hopefully his girlfriend never make it when the gun bullet started, so she that the one sustained the most injury.
The shooter then trained his handgun at the house with several persons inside.
Young Angel in the house, my wife in the house, my daughter in the house, he and the 2 baby with the Angel, and he just come in and shoot up with no kind of sense.
Indiscriminately just start shoot up at
I just come and start to bust up shot in the yard, like, have no kind of sense.
How many bullets, holes are in your house?
Approximately, I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7 to 8 bullets into my house.
And how many people were inside?
I have my daughter, my 2 grandbabies, my wife, and one of my niece.
So the baby was fast asleep when...
Yeah, well, fast asleep when he get shot. An angel, you're not supposed to realize how much God protect an angel. So could have killed the whole family with them barrage a shot and no sense.
The shooter then scurried into the darkness. Quick police work led to the arrest of 2 suspects and the recovery of the firearm.
Police investigations so far had also led to 2 persons being detained, which we believe are connected to this investigation, and the recovery of a handgun also in the Antelope Street Extension area. At this point in time, we do not have a clear motive, so we are still trying to establish that.
Your son ever tell you have a beef with anybody in the area or with any other body?
No, 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 no. I don't know about nothing. Not tell me about nothing. But you know, children now, I tell parents because parents will rail up with them or tell them whatsoever. And so, I try to teach my children, who no do get in and no kind of beef because all we people, black brothers do, the young generations and so, they kill one another, which is no sense.
Reporting for News 5, Hipólito Novello.
Coming up, Colin Francis is charged for the murder of Nestor Vasquez Jr.
Saturday, November
Colin Francis, believed to be suffering from mental illness, has been charged with the murder of Nestor Vasquez Jr. in June of this year. Francis spent the weekend in the same cell where the deadly beating of Vasquez took place. He was being detained for the attempted murder of a nurse who was treating him for his mental state when the vicious attack on Vasquez took place. According to Francis's attorney, Dickie Bradley, there has not been a psychiatric evaluation of his condition, but tonight he is on remand. News 5's Sani Caetano reports.
60-year-old Nestor Vasquez Jr., a mental patient, lost his life on June 8th after being beaten to a bloody pulp by a fellow mental patient inside the Queen Street lockup, where he was being held in custody at the request of his family. He was fatally attacked by Colin Francis, who at the time was also being detained for the attempted murder of nurse Augustina Eligio, a caregiver for persons suffering from mental illness. This morning, Francis appeared before Senior Magistrate Aretha Ford, where he was arraigned on a single charge of murder.
We are dealing once again with an accused person who has been exhibiting symptoms that he's mentally ill. As we would know, and I tried to find out today, he had been before the magistrate courts on the matter of having stabbed a psychiatric nurse.
On Friday, Francis was once again taken into custody, pending charges stemming from the deadly encounter, and housed in the same holding cell where the incident occurred several months ago. Representing the family pro bono due to the nature of the case is attorney Richard Dickie Bradley.
The family came to me over the weekend and said that the police had picked up their son, I think on Friday, and that he was housed at the same Queen Street police station cell block where he's accused of taking life, where he actually took life. I mean, that is a failure to understand that we are dealing with mentally disturbed persons. They don't think like us. They're in a different world from us. He probably is having some kind of flashback in there. I can't go there, but you don't take him to the same facility. You know that he was attending a psychiatric clinic. He was being given medication for mental illness. Surely, man, come on, this is not the regular citizen.
Despite his arraignment and remand, Francis is yet to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. His present state, however, is described as non compos mentis, a juristic term used to describe a person's action as not motivated by reason, but being influenced by some false image or mental impression.
This is not a matter that, and I told the family, I can't charge them for a matter like this. Just like how our brethren, Jules Vasquez and his family are hurting on their loss, another family is out there hurting, knowing in their view that their son from about 8 to 10 years ago has been showing serious signs of mental illness. And, well, you all know the law. The law is that if a person is not compos mentis, is not mentally capable of forming a rational intention to kill, no court can find him guilty of murder.
This morning, Assistant Commissioner of Police Joseph Myvet explained that Francis was picked up following a directive from the office of the DPP upon conclusion of reviewing the case file.
On Saturday last, police have since arrested and charged Colin Francis, 29 years of ability, addressed for the crime of murder.
Sir, I know the family has complained, saying, why did it take so long? Can you offer an explanation?
Well, what I can say is that the investigation was done, and the evidence gathered, including the case file, was submitted to the Director of Public Prosecution for her to make a determination. And that had just concluded, hence the reason why he was arrested on Saturday. Those directives were returned to the police on Friday.
Colin Francis is set to return to court on January 7th, 2020. Reporting for News 5, I am Sani Caetano.
Police in Belize are looking for one man believed to have broken into a home, held up 3 persons at knife point, tied and robbed them. On Sunday night, Dorette Vernon was inside her house on Raccoon Street Extension, along with Gloria Henry, when an intruder dressed in full blue clothing and a rag covering his face barged in. The intruder produced a knife and ordered the ladies to the ground and proceeded to tie their hands behind their backs. During the robbery, 54-year-old Hubert Smith arrived, and he too was held up and tied. ACP Joseph Maivet told reporters today that security cameras in the area are being reviewed with the hopes that it can assist the investigation.
Sometime shortly before 9 p.m., whilst herself and another friend were in her home was entered into by a male person armed with a knife, who then tied them up and searched the building, and in the process a number of personal items were stolen from them. They were not injured during the process. At this point in time, police is seeking one person whom we believe can assist in this investigation.
Do they have any ideas who this assailant could have been?
Not going to go into the details of that yet.
Is there any surveillance footage in the area that would be able to assist police with that investigation?
We are looking at that this morning to see whether or not we will get any that can assist us.
The intruder got away with 2 cell phones and $50 in cash. Police say Omar Gomez is the name of the man who was found floating in the Hollover Creek on Friday morning. Gomez's body was discovered at around 8 o'clock that morning behind Dreamlike City. Here's more from ACP Joseph Maivet.
That person had been identified as Omar Gomez, 37 years, of a Ladyville address.
Any indications as to how he actually passed away, sir? Is it just that he drowned?
At this point in time, we are still awaiting a post-mortem result. There were no signs of injuries observed on the body at the time it was found.
A man was knocked off his motorcycle on November 16th, and a week later, he succumbed to his injuries. Police say that Adan Diaz was hospitalized ever since the crash that happened on the Iguana Creek Road in the west. The driver of the vehicle that hit him, Pedro Bajador, is expected to face charges. Here's more from ACP Joseph Maivet.
According to Mr. Bajador, he was driving his gray in color Amarok Volkswagen from south to east on the Iguana Creek Road when he observed a male person on a red motorcycle going in the same direction. As a result, he attempted to overtake the motorcycle, who then also swerved to his left. He moved further left in order to try and avoid an accident. However, he ended up still colliding into the motorcycle, which at the time was being driven by one Adan Diaz, 45 years old, of a Billy White address, I believe. The victim was transported to the San Ignacio Community Hospital and later to the Carl Hirschner Memorial Hospital, where I believe it was yesterday he succumbed to those injuries. At the time of the accident, Mr. Bajador was served with a notice of intended prosecution whilst the investigation was ongoing. This will now be continued as a result of the victim's death at the Carl Hirschner Memorial Hospital yesterday.
Today, police also gave the official report on the shooting of Justin Stevens, also known as Justin Tech. As we reported on Friday, Tech was shot and seriously injured. He's now in a stable condition at the hospital. This is the 3rd attempt on his life. ACP Joseph Maivet of the Belize Police Department tells us more.
On Thursday, sometime around 6:10 p.m., police were called to a shooting on New Road, Belize City, where upon arrival they were told that the victim had already been transported to the Carl Hirschner Memorial Hospital, where they visited the victim and learned his name to be Justin Stephen Tech. of a Belize City address, and he had apparent gunshot injury. What the police know so far is that Mr. Tech was walking on New Road and had stopped somewhere in the vicinity of a car wash when he was approached by someone who came out from through an alley and fired upon him, causing the above-mentioned injuries. At this point in time, he is in a stable condition, and the police is seeking one suspect in relation to this investigation.
There is another murder acquittal in the courts. Frank Alexander Young of Lordsbank Village, who was charged with the murder of David Andrews, is tonight a free man. Young was tried by Justice Colin Williams. The main witness was WPC Hyde, who claimed that on the night of December 23, 2016, she saw when Young jumped off a motorcycle and proceeded to where Andrews and a friend were sitting on a veranda on Seagull Street in Belize City. She also testified that she saw the accused from the right side of his body firing about 5 shots at Andrews. Hyde later viewed photographs in a rogue gallery and was able to identify the accused. An identification parade was also conducted, and Hyde pointed to the accused. But Justice Williams found that the identification parade was inadmissible on 3 grounds. First, Hyde did not give a written statement of the incident prior to conducting the identification parade. Second, when she viewed the gallery, it was in contravention to the common law, since she did not view a minimum of 12 photographs, but only viewed 8. Third, she did not view the photograph under any supervision, as is required. Justice Williams held that the identification process did not meet the requirements and determined that it would have been unsafe and improper to convict Young on the charge of murder. As a result, he was acquitted. Jose Rodriguez luckily spared jail time when he appeared before Justice Colin Williams this morning for sentencing. Last Wednesday, Rodriguez pleaded guilty to causing death by careless conduct in a fatal traffic accident which claimed the life of 11-year-old Tezra Thompson. Initially, Rodriguez was charged with manslaughter by negligence, but pleaded guilty to the lesser charge. Rodriguez was ordered to pay $3,000 and given 6 months to pay the fine or face 6 months imprisonment if he fails to do so. Rodriguez was being represented by attorney Nazira Miles, while Crown Counsel Reese Cattouse prosecuted the case. On October 5, 2015, Thompson was knocked down and killed by a pickup truck driven by Rodriguez while crossing the George Price Highway after exiting a bus. Thompson was a student at St. Matthew's Government School and was returning to her home in Mahogany Heights when the incident occurred. There is relief for the family of 2 sisters who died in an accident. The court has ordered 54-year-old Carlos Martinez to pay in excess of $31,000 to the family of 16-year-old Larry Annette and 26-year-old Cindy Kawo. On October 6, 2018, the 2 sisters were in the company of Martinez when he lost control of his vehicle between miles 71 and 72 on the George Price Highway, causing it to run into the Mopan River. The siblings were trapped inside and died when the vehicle submerged. Karim Musa, the attorney for Paulina Kawo, the father of the deceased sister, spoke to the media.
We brought an action on behalf of the father, who was a dependent of Cindy Kawo. She at the time was working at Chen's restaurant as a waitress in Belmopan. And so what happened, she used to assist her father with the household expenses. And so in a case like that, you're allowed to bring a case under the Torts Act for a dependent, which is Mr. Paulino Kawo. And so the judge handed down her decision today. She found that Mr. Carlos Martinez, his judgment was impaired as a result of consuming alcohol on that night. And she found that he was fully responsible for plunging that motor vehicle into the Mopan River. And so in that regard, the family has received their justice. There is no amount of money, as you know, that can bring back anybody's loved one. And so we then got into the issue of quantum of damages, and so the court looks at the multiplier-multiplicand formula in arriving at an adequate sum to award Mr. Kawo for his loss. and they have found, based on her earnings, she was merely a waitress, but she applied a multiplier of, I think it was 11 years of earnings. And so it was that she awarded a total sum of $31,000 to Mr. Paulino Kawo on the loss of his daughter Cindy, and the funeral expenses of $5,000.
The case was heard before Justice Shona Griffith, and the defendant, Carlos Martinez, was represented by attorney Earl Hamilton. After the break, 16 days of activism kicks off. The anniversary of the historic ascension to the Convention on the Rights of the Child was celebrated on Friday night in Belize City. To mark the occasion, a number of organizations and individuals, including News 5's Dwayne Moody, were singled out for fulfilling the different aspects of the convention that guarantees a set of rights to children. Here's a report of the event with Dwayne Moody.
A gala event was held on Friday night at the Caribbean Motors showroom in Belize City. It was a celebration of the 30th anniversary of the Convention on the Rights of a Child, which was ratified by Belize back in 1989. Hosted by the National Committee for Families and Children and UNICEF, the event was used to honor those who have been working on accomplishing the Human Rights Treaty.
Children are living messages we send to a time we will not see. A message which describes us, the present, and that will plant the future of our nation. What that message entails is completely dependent on how well we equip our children to write, read, and vocalize the core principles of love, service to one's country, leadership, good governance, professionalism, along with the mastery of the humanities, sciences, engineering, technical and vocational studies, and business disciplines. The year 2019 marked the 30th anniversary of the signing of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. 30 years of championing the rights, welfare, and development of Belizean families and children. After 30 years, it is essential for us to acknowledge just how far we have come. After 30 years, we have seen efforts geared at achieving universal primary education for all Belizeans, high immunization rates, and comprehensive amendments to legislations in favor of protecting our children. After 30 years, we are bit by bit eradicating the relevance of the English proverb, children should be seen and not heard. After so long, children's voices are now being heard.
In attendance were ministers of government as well as mayors from municipalities across the length and breadth of the country. Back in 2014, a sustainable and child-friendly municipality initiative was introduced to ensure that children feel safe, are provided with the amenities they need, and are healthy and well-informed. The Mayors Association of Belize signed on to this document. They were honored at the event.
In the category of children in community involvement, the winner is Kenley Young.
Many children were awarded for their involvement with their community, arts and culture, agriculture, vocation, science and technology, and children in business. Non-government organizations who have worked with young people were also honored. Dwayne Moody for News 5.
The 16 days of activism kicked off today at the IT Vet in Belize City. The National Women's Commission and Special Envoy for Women and Children launched the event under the theme From Awareness to Accountability, Unmasking the Many Faces of Violence. The 16 days of activism is used to raise awareness and create a call of action to eliminate all forms of gender-based violence. We spoke with Cynthia Williams, the Executive Director of the National Women's Commission, who tells us more about how they're using this year's theme to tackle gender-based violence.
It's an opportunity for the sector to really increase and strengthen the work that they do throughout the year. This year's theme focuses on individual roles of everyone. So our team is From Awareness to Accountability, Unmasking the Many Faces of Violence. These themes allows us to really expand the conversation beyond domestic violence. Often domestic violence and gender-based violence is used synonymously, and so we want to be able to help people understand that when we speak about gender-based violence, we speak about sexual assault, we speak about abuse of children, we speak about sexual harassment in the workplace and on the street as well, even though in Belize we don't have legislation that protects people from that. We also speak about behaviors that perpetuate myths, perpetuate norms and attitudes that lead to gender inequality. So this year, what we're trying to do is refocus the conversation and helping people to be able to have uncomfortable discussions in terms of how they also perpetrate the various forms of gender-based violence.
If you're interested in attending one of the 16 Days of Activism events, you can check out a barbershop forum at the Biltmore on Tuesday morning at 8:30. That forum, entitled Engaging Men and Boys to Help Combat Gender-Based Violence, is being held in partnership with the Spouses of CARICOM Leaders Network Action, the British High Commission, the United Nations Gender Theme Group, and the National Women's Commission. There's much more news after the break, so stay tuned. Founded in 1968, the booming Jamaica Stock Exchange has been named the world's best performing stock market twice. According to online articles, Jamaica's success in its stock exchange is greatly due to its dramatic economic turnaround that culminated in the country exiting its IMF program with flying colors last month. Chairman Ian McNaughton and Managing Director Merlene Street Forrest are in Belize holding discussions with the Economic Development Council, sharing knowledge on how to develop a successful stock market in Belize. Along with Ishmael Kiras, Executive Director for the Council, Forrest and McNaughton appeared on Open Your Eyes this morning, where they discussed what it will take.
There needs to be education. There needs to be a public education initiative which enables people to understand what the stock exchange is, what it offers, and how they can participate. So that's the first step. The second step really is to ensure that it's properly managed and properly regulated. And once that's in place and people have the confidence that, you know, this is not a, I hate to use a bad word, Ponzi scheme. You know, the confidence will grow and the market will grow.
There are various levels of regulation, and the stock exchange itself now regulates both the listed companies and the brokers that operate within the market. So there is so many areas of regulation that people begin to feel comfortable. But not only is it that there is the regulatory framework, but we actually regulate.
From the public sector side, there is interest knowing that there are things that we need to have in place before we can actually go that route. And so it's important for us to talk about it together and move forward in getting all the pieces in place.
The Young Women's Christian Academy, YWCA, held a closing ceremony this afternoon for a 2-year program funded by the European Union. Addressing human rights for more equitable development, ARMED saw as many as 890 women from across the country participate in training that will empower them to participate in equitable development.
Today, we commemorate the closing of the Addressing Human Rights for More Equitable Development, ARMED. The project targeted marginalized women and youth, 15 years and older, who fall in the low-income bracket or released from custodial care, indigenous people, differently abled, immigrants, and students. The overall objective of this 24-month project was advocacy for and protection of human rights for women and youth, and improvement of gender equity. To achieve these larger objectives, both our headquarters in Belize City and our resource center in Belmopan impacted 890 women and 9 men. Thank you. This target population were vulnerable and youth, and we provided them with knowledge, the capacity to better themselves, and skills to impact and protect their own selves against abuse, to obtain more income, and to help others facing abuse to protect their rights.
Coming up after the break, the volleyball girls come home with the silver and get a warm reception. The debate on whether to ban the use of gill nets in Belizeans water continues tonight. Recently, a group of fishermen against the ban staged a protest in Dangriga by members of the Belize Fishermen Cooperative Association. The ban of gill net usage has been supported by environmental groups such as Oceana and the Coalition to Save Our Natural Heritage. The argument is that gill nets are harmful and detrimental to the fish stock. Longtime fisherman Ovel Leonardo today added to the debate. Leonardo, who supports the ban on gill nets, says that a licensed gill net user has witnessed the first-hand depletion of the fish stock.
People are out there that say, oh, we got to blame Oceana, we have to blame the Coalition, we have to blame, well, no, let's not blame anybody. Let us blame ourselves. When, many years ago when I started, there used to be fish, they beat all along the beach. Now we do not see that anymore. So, which means that the fish have depleted. And we want fish to come back. So we want to ask the Coast Guard to do more patrols. And if this ban should have take place, we want to ask people to really, and all fishermen, me, I want to ask all fishermen to let's take care of what we have. Because nobody want to take care of it for we.
The national female volleyball team wins silver at the 2019 Under-18 Female Volleyball Championships held over the weekend. Team Belize lost only to Costa Rica, which landed them in second place. But the team returned with the most individual medals after competing in San Carlos, Costa Rica. Gareth Bruce won Best Scorer and Best Attacker award, while Sofia Solano was distinguished as the Best Libero and Best Defensive Player. Iman Safa was Best Setter for the regional competition, while Olivia McKenzie was the Best Blocker and Jada Smith the Best Receiver. It's another big win for the Volleyball Association as Belize continues to excel in the sport at the regional level. A motorcade was organized by the National Sports Council this afternoon to honor the team. News 5 spoke with the assistant coach Lawrence Bennett and best scorer Gareth Bruce about the experience.
The experience, it was just nothing that wasn't here in Belize. We just went out and we lost focus in the game against Costa Rica, which we could have won, but I guess everything happens for a reason, I guess. El Salvador, it was hard because we were so friendly with them and they were so nice, and that made a change in how we perform. But turns out we still won in 3 sets and got silver.
What is the general consensus among your teammates in terms of coming back home with silver?
We're very proud and we feel accomplished.
Do you think that because you females are very much acquainted with each other and have played together so well for an extended period of time that lent to your performance being well over there in Costa Rica?
Yes, it did, because we have been growing up together since a young age, and that helped build the team chemistry.
We didn't expect to place that high, but the girls' work out here was a little bit down, but getting there, everybody's spirits came up. First couple games, we did well. Beat the two teams well against Costa Rica. We had a little downs. I think Costa Rica is a more, you could say, a team that used to pressure. We are not used to pressure like that. We're getting there, but we haven't reached here. The last game against Salvador, we know we would have won. The two teams are very friendly, but on the court, we showed that we wanted silver, and we didn't need the help of the other teams to help us.
Up next, James Adderley has a full report of the sporting activities held over the weekend.